All right, we are about this far along. I don't know, maybe halfway. We have some other pieces to go and then the roof to go on. Tips. All right, huge tip. If you think you're going to put in all the screws with this, look, it's doable, especially if you've got, 5 people doing this. But look at all these screws. Just these alone, 228. Then like another 24 of those, another 80 of those, another what does that add up to? Like 1,000? Like 1,000 screws? You're gonna put them all in with this? I wouldn't. Okay, I wouldn't. That's the biggest tip. Get yourself one of these guys, some kind of power tool thing. That's a 4mm. I've got another one here. I think it's a 5/64, no, 5/32. That works about the same. Get something. All right. Oh, you know what you could do? If you don't want to buy those bits, you could chop this up. Could chop this off and just put it into a normal drill chuck and use that. But either way, I wouldn't be putting all the screws in for them. Okay, another tip. If you're finding you're putting screws in, especially when you're trying to, like, put these in, things aren't lining up right, in terms of the screw holes and what you're trying to put in. It is a lot of times it's most likely because your whole setup is not square. All right, to square it, you really need to kind of start with, like I did here. I can't remember which corner I started with. One of these. I kind of started with a corner here, screwed that sucker down, and the deck is square, but it's still, things are off. So I was kind of counting on it being the same this way. Once you get these sides in here, this is when you need to square it up. So I put it in, where it should be square or straight along this deck line here. Okay, and then you've got to plumb this out, and then you go from there. So you got these 2 sides ready, and then you've got to square everything up. If it's not squared up, things aren't going to line up. And then what I found out, trying to get all of these put in, see how these don't line up? Really? Now, it could be that these are wrong, okay? It could be that these aren't correct, but I don't think so, because I'm finding out that everything's not level. So this deck and the deck boards and everything are not perfectly level, so they're off. This is, in other words, this post is not at the same height as the other posts, so that's going to throw these off. All right, just like, these are going to be thrown off if things aren't square. Everything's going to be thrown off if it's not square, if it's not all on the same level. Okay, so those are very important. If you don't have those right, it's not going to go well. And I got a feeling then it only gets worse when we try to do the roof. You try to line those panels up and this thing isn't square, I think that's where you're going to run into a lot of problems. So those are my biggest tips. Another tips, I put these tarps down thinking that I was going to be dropping screws all over the place, and that could still happen, especially when we get to the roof. And I don't want to be losing screws through the decking. So I put some tarps down. They've only kind of come in handy maybe once. But that's another tip. All right. Also, when you're putting in almost everything, you don't tighten them all the way until you have them all set. When you have them all set, then you tighten it down, because what happens is by the time you get to the 4th corner or the 4th edge or whatever other side you're trying to do, all of a sudden there's not enough room and you can't get the screws to line up. Then you got to go back and loosen everything up, kind of get it centered, get all the screws set. So just wait until the end of that page. Usually it's per page. At the end of that page, then go through and tighten everything up, but don't tighten them up right away.
it.